Welcome to the Product Podcast, where we dive deep into the real world challenges and victories of product managers, startup founders, and product teams. I'm your host, Lee Jean, and in each episode, we have authentic conversations that uncover the hidden stories shaping modern product management. In today's episode, I'm sitting down with my good friend Joshua Owoyemi, who's the CEO and founder of ModAstera. ModAstera is aiming to make medical diagnosis faster and cheaper with the power of AI. It's a really engaging conversation, and I really hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, Josh.
Hi Lee, how's it going?
Good, man. Thank you so much for coming on to the Product Podcast. How you doing today?
Yeah, it's interesting. I like the name product. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
guess they're also pro other things.
Exactly,
Yeah, well,
exactly.
I like the name. It makes a lot of sense.
You
Yeah.
know, here in Japan, everyone loves like these little characters, man, and that's kind of where it came from, you know?
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
got like a mascot or something?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. I think later on we'll have like little rubber ducks and like
uh,
them as merch or something, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
that'd be cool.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
potentially. Let's see how big the
Yeah,
podcast gets. But
yeah.
no, yeah, thank you, man. I'm really appreciative of you coming on. Obviously, we met last year
Right.
when I came to Japan and through the Techstars Startup Weekend, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you've been here much longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what I want to start off with is tell everyone a little bit about who you are and your journey so far.
Yeah, I always find it hard where to start from. So maybe as far as it concerns Japan, I will start from just before I came to Japan. That's like in 2014, 2015. I just finished my master's back in Nigeria. I started working on a university as a lecturer, and I felt like I needed to learn more. I didn't feel really comfortable with where I was in terms of like um what I know and how what I wanted to achieve. So I felt like I needed to go for a PhD, and I was looking out for many countries to do it. I had like a top 20 that I was like really interested in at the time. And because I was interested in robotics, Japan is came to be one of the top countries where robot was being utilized on a
Mm,
daily basis. I guess at the time was like top one or two. So it felt really interesting for me to go to Japan. And I applied. There was this scholarship called MEXT scholarship. In Japan, it's called Mombu Kagakusho. So I applied for it. The way I applied for it was all like it didn't look like it was going to happen, but I did, and I got the scholarship. And that was when I came to Japan in 2015. And then that was I went to Tohoku University, in Sendai. I was in Sendai for 4 years, doing my PhD. After I graduated 2019, moved to Tokyo, joined a company to start doing something related to self-driving cars. That was a craze then, just like AI, LLMs are right now. That
right.
was the like the big, technology people were really interested with self-driving cars. So I was there for about a year. I was involved in building AI models for them. And then I moved to the second company, which was more into research and development. We did a lot of development for companies, consulting. It was also in the AI, area. I
Mhm.
had a lot of experience with, doing, working with different companies such as like in manufacturing, um, anomaly detection, which is in like quality assurance, and also moved into pharmaceuticals, drug discovery. That was where my passion for, medical applications actually started from. That was like 5 years ago. And now starting this new company, ModAstera, which we are, trying to help companies to, develop AI models for medical diagnosis faster and cheaper. And I think that is where I'm at right now in terms of like what I'm doing.
Awesome, man. What a journey, man.
Yeah,
First,
yeah, yeah. It's
like
interesting.
when I was looking at your LinkedIn before the episode, I didn't realize you were a doctor, man. You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, no, it's not I would say it's not a big thing, maybe if I was in Nigeria, my name would be Dr. Joshua Owoyemi, but here it's not a big. deal in Japan. So you just like, oh, call me Joshua.
Joshua Sensei or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Really cool,
yeah,
man. Yeah, so you were working on something, you were a researcher before and you
yeah,
were searching for the medical industry.
yeah.
Were you doing that also in Nigeria?
No, no, I was not. My work in Nigeria was more in the I had a background in mechanical engineering, so it was even though it was more of the software side, such as simulation and things like that, but it had nothing to do with the medical industry. So I only started, really into the medical industry like 5 years ago.
I see. I see.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
So robots, what was the switch from, obviously researching robots and wanting to get into that field and obviously
yeah,
your background in mechanical industry.
yeah.
I guess what kind of made you see, okay, maybe this is not something that I'm so interested anymore?
Yeah, so the concept of robots, it's interesting because actually they're kind of hardware robots, which is most people know.
Mhm.
And actually we can also think of robots in the software sense, such as things that does, uh stuff for us.
Right.
Now we have agents. Agents
Mhm.
are more like robots in the software sense. So the switch was not planned in a way. It was more about pivoting,
Okay.
so in my company, we were pretty much doing, research and development, AI based for companies, different areas, application areas. And in
Hmm.
2020, when COVID happened, all the non-medical companies, stopped their project. So we
Mm.
were forced to focus more on the medical side because those were the only companies that were really doing any new project at the time, you know. And so that was one thing that really, and I had to challenge myself. Maybe I needed to quit, look for a company that will be still doing robotics, or, take on the challenge and learn how to apply what I already know in the medical side. And I was kind of, it was a challenge to start. And I found really, I found it out I was getting it faster, and, I was able to innovate in that area. And so I felt it was a good move for me.
Awesome. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds like it. Now, Josh, from my knowledge, obviously
Yeah.
you're really strong with development, like actual like software development. So
Yeah.
in university, did you have kind of like a blended background with regards to mechanical engineering and also software development, or how did you get into coding?
Yeah, so in the university, when my first job, like a lecturer, I was already interested in software, even though I didn't do software on a daily basis. So I was really interested in how software could be used to, simulate and optimize processes. Those
Mhm.
were the things I was working on. And then when I moved to Japan, my lab was more on the software side of mechanical engineering. So like writing software for robots, for computer vision, for, anything that related to robots. We were more on the software side. So I was really thrown into that deep end of now you really need to start coding
Okay.
and, doing the software side. And that was where the real software engineering, experience started from. And I just took it on from there and, continued to
It
work in that
sounds like,
area.
yeah, it sounds like two completely like very different fields, but in essence, you're still building something that operates
Yeah.
on its own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And nowadays, like software is a large part of even hardwares. Back in the days, for example, your cars, they don't used to have all those electronics inside of it. It's just mechanical system, right?
Right.
But nowadays, it is the electronics that is driving the car, not
Mm.
only the mechanical system. It's more than 80% of it. So things are actually moved more into the software side
I
rather
see.
than just the hardware side. So that's why it's becoming more and more useful and more important.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I think that there are a lot of parallels with both building, obviously, mechanical engineering and also
Yeah.
software
Yeah.
engineering. There
Yeah.
are lots of integrated, like Internet of Things type applications, right? That are
Right. Right. Right.
here,
All of that. Yeah.
especially smart home devices and stuff. So
Yeah.
I definitely see that. Wow, really cool background, man. What I wanted to know from you is like, obviously, this is a product focus
Mm-hmm.
podcast,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what was your experience like working in Japan on a product team?
Yeah. So I have like some kind of new as an experience because the first company I was in, it was a larger company, about 200 people. So I was part of a smaller team, which like 5 to 6 people. We were only like doing kind of a small area of the whole system. And we had like a manager who would communicate what is needed and we would do it. So in that sense, I had like that experience of, okay, getting the direction from the manager who, of course, talks with another manager who decides what to do. And we now come up with the method or the idea that we would like to use to implement that idea. So in that point, it was more about coming up with a method, not really having much input in the direction. And my last company, the other company, is a smaller company, so it was lesser number of people. It also meant that the organization was more parallel, and
Mm.
so you had a project, big project with other companies, where it would be only you or you and other, engineers. So this one, you had more freedom in how the project would go. And so in that sense, I kind of had, even though I wasn't like a product manager or anything, but I had the freedom to choose how we would, go with the project. As long as we understand the objective, like what problem the client is trying to solve, we can come
Mm.
up with a plan to
Mm.
solve it,
I
in that
see.
sense. And of course, um, we also started some product-led, business, such as trying to sell an enterprise software to companies. So in that sense, also coming up with discussing, weekly discussing and deciding which feature would be necessary to, to include and would be necessary to build. And so those are my experiences. And finally now, starting my own company, we don't have a product manager. I'm more of, I would say, I don't want to say I'm the product manager, but more of the one who decides with my co-founder how the product is going to shape and how is it going to be, looking to the client. So we
Yeah.
kind of have 100%, uh, say in how it works.
Yeah, exactly. When you're a startup founder, you wear many different hats, right?
Exactly,
Instead
exactly.
instead of CEO, it should be COE, Chief of Everything, right?
Yeah,
It's
right, right,
seriously,
right,
seriously, because
right.
yeah, but that's also the freeing aspect of it. I'm sure that, obviously that big corporation you work for, and then that smaller corporation, I'm sure that the environment was better here for you,
Hmm.
because, it naturally led to you becoming an entrepreneur, right? Would
Right,
you
right,
say
right.
that's the case?
Right, right. That's the case, and you had the chance to actually, come up with projects, like research projects that actually came that also moved into the product,
Hmm.
and that was really a good experience for me.
Yeah,
I'm kind of the creative guy, so I'm not very good with just like following or not having a say to how the thing is supposed to be.
right.
If you have a big corporation, yeah, of course, there are people that who would be more useful in that area, but I don't see myself in that kind of setting.
I see. I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely get that about you as well, man.
Yeah.
Especially when we met at the Techstar Startup Weekend, you had some really good ideas about how I could improve my product as well. So I
Yeah,
appreciate,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate that,
That was
man.
cool. Yeah, it was cool experience. Yeah.
Yeah, hackathons are awesome, man. Like they're really
Surely, surely. I believe that one of the things that really changed my trajectory, like in the past 2 years, is actually going out and going to hackathons and, meeting people. Of course, where I met you also. So yeah, so it was, I would advise anyone to, to do hackathons if they have a dream of actually building teams and, meeting people. Yeah.
I believe it should be taught in high school, right? Like, I think we should be doing this a lot earlier so that
Right, right,
we
right,
learn
right,
and
right,
inspire more entrepreneurs, right?
right.
Correct me if
Exactly.
I'm wrong. You actually help host a hackathon, is that correct here in
Yeah, yeah. So last about 3 weeks ago, we hosted an hackathon with Lewagon and Melting Hack. Melting Hack is a community of people who are interested in hackathons in Japan. And Lewagon is like a big coding boot camp in Tokyo. And we, had this idea of creating a like time constrained hackathon
Okay.
where you would only be able to work for 4 hours.
Okay.
Most other hackathons are like multi-day, like 3 day. The one that we did was a 3 day hackathon.
Right.
I've done hackathon that lasted maybe more than 15 days. But
Okay.
this one, well, we constrained it. Only 4 hours for you to come up with the solution that you're trying to build.
Oh
And
wow.
I think it was really interesting because people really liked it. Oh, more than half of the people who joined came to hackathon for the first time because on their part, there was no time, the time that they have to put in was much lower than if they have to go for a 3 day hackathon. And so
Mm.
we had good reviews. And we also introduced something that was kind of really popular now, agents, AI agents. So we wanted them to come up with a solution using AI agents. So that kind of brought up the enthusiasm to kind of join the hackathon. And I think it was a success.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Did they actually have to validate and the problem and and this everything all within 4 hours, or was it more so kind of like come up with a creative solution in that time?
Yeah. So the objective for this hackathon was not to come up with a product that you would maybe go to sell. The
Mm.
objective was to use this new technology or new way of doing things to solve a problem.
Mm.
So specifically, the problem was um, planning a multi-day trip, constrained with cost. How would you use an AI agent to do that?
Mm.
So instead of like the normal way would be people would go on different sites and do all the research by themselves, but we know that AI agents can help you to put all of those things together. So we
Mm.
just ask them, can you come up with a framework where that AI agent will be able to do all of this for you uh, given the constraints. And so there was no need to do like market research or anything. It was just, okay, we know the problem. They just find a way to solve it. And so
Interesting.
that was easier to contain within 4 hours.
And next time you do it, let me know, man. I want to join.
Yeah, yeah, that
I
was
think
nice.
it'll be a lot of fun, you know?
Yeah.
In that hackathon, were there business side people, but also tech side, or was it mostly tech people?
Yeah, I would say there were a lot of business people. And the interesting thing is the business side people also, participated in, using the tools.
Okay.
So even though it was more like, I would say it was more of like 90% technical hackathon in the sense that you're not expected to, use Figma, come up with all those kind of things, but it allowed the business people to basically get deep into that, the tools that engineers would use. And
Right.
one thing we did was you don't have to code, right? So there are a lot of like no code tools that you can
Mm.
use to achieve the same result. And so we were able to introduce those tools to them in the beginning, and they had the freedom to choose whichever one they wanted. And so we saw a lot of people trying things for the first time and really, getting a hang of it within 4 hours.
Nice, 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 man. Yeah, it sounds very interesting. I definitely want to join. Absolutely
Yeah, yeah,
excited. So you had said something about constraints, and I want to get back to that because I think that constraints actually help us get things done a lot quicker. And
right.
because our minds are so like complex, right? We overthink about things, or we, sit there and thinking about what it could be, but constraints really keep us in line, right? So
Yeah.
what sorts of constraints do you think are very useful for people to think about when they're solving problems like that, other than time? Yeah.
Other than time. Other main constraints, of course, there are like automatic constraints, such as like resources
Hmm.
that would just appear automatically as long as you have a problem you want to solve. So, for example, if you're trying to come up with a new product, um, the number of people who will be able to work on that product is a constraint on its own. So, if you don't have a team to help you, uh, you have to think about how do I, you know, um, address this constraint first before actually going ahead to solve the problem. So that would be one. And being able to being nimble and use the resources that you have to achieve the product, to achieve the objective, would be a very good skill to have. You
Mm.
know, and I think that is one thing that a lot of startup founders do very well in a way that because we don't have money in the beginning. We just have the idea to to solve a problem, and we kind of have this kind of optimistic, view that we can solve it. And but at the same time, you realize immediately that you actually need people,
Mm.
and you're resource constrained. And which other constraint would be, I think, market forces also. Like if you're in Japan, right? For example, there are ways you would do business in Japan. Uh, different from how you would do it in the US or in Canada or UK. So that's
Uh-huh.
a kind of a market forces, or let's say environmental constraint.
100%.
So understanding all of this would help you to make the right decision, I think.
So, what constraints are you currently going through right now with building your startup?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And that would be building in Japan. Building in Japan is totally different from the US. And again, because of the sector, the industry that we're in, health, it has another, set of constraints on it.
Mhm.
If and also because of the business model, B2B, direct to business, not direct to consumer, that is another, set of, constraint that you have to think about. So these are the things that we're considering right now, that we're battling with, like regulations in Japan. You can't just come up with a new model and say this model can help you to cure cancer. There has to be some ways that you are able to evaluate and like invoke confidence in your bit in the client, that this what you're trying to say is what you're trying to sell to them is actually what you promised. And so the health sector has one of the highest level of regulations that you can have when it comes to products that you have to sell, or your patient has to use, because it affects their life directly.
Mhm.
So these are the kind of things we have to think about, how to navigate all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean, you guys recently received the investment from Antler, right? So
Yeah.
that'll help you guys obviously with those resources in terms of
Hmm.
hiring people who could potentially help you, or at least outside help, or mentors, stuff like that potentially, right? But then yeah,
Yeah.
also the language, man. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Language. Yeah, right. So I didn't mention that. Yeah. I
could
guess I just accepted that right now as a given. But yeah, the language is a very big thing. And given that I've already been here for almost 10 years, still cannot speak like a business level. So
right.
I have to find creative ways to actually be able to still reach out to the prospective clients. One
Right.
way would be, okay, having somebody in your team who would be able to do the communication very well. And
Mhm.
good thing is, so lucky I was able to meet Tetsu, who is my co-founder, and
Mhm.
he's a Japanese guy. So we have that down in a way of, oh, we can easily communicate with the Japanese people. Still, I need to, being the CEO, I still need to do a lot of communications myself. So I have to think about how do I do that.
Mhm.
And one thing that I'm really exploring right now is having more like a business intern who would be able to help, like much more quickly with
Mhm.
like communicating, communication materials creation, and research when it comes to specifically Japanese market. So these are the like things I'm really exploring right now. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Yeah. Are you hiring any people at the moment?
Yeah. We're looking to hire a business development manager,
Okay.
either intern or full time. We are not really broadcasting it because we want to reach out to people that are more like in
In
our
network
circle,
first.
yeah, network
Absolutely.
first. So that's what we're doing right now. Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's great. Exciting, exciting times, right?
Yeah, it is.
What for your company, ModAstera, right? Can you tell me a little bit about the problem that you're solving?
Okay. So the challenge now in health medical industry, based because of AI popularity, is that many companies, they want to adopt AI, they want to use AI for their product, for medical diagnosis, but starting up those projects is still very expensive. You have to hire people, and if you're a company who doesn't have any, AI specialists, you have to hire somebody, or you have to outsource that project to another company, maybe a consulting company that would be able to do that for you. And the companies are spending a lot of money to do this. Even established companies, they are more like a generalist in their, they have a technical team, but maybe they want to try out a new model. They don't have the specialists to do that in-house. They still have to do the outsourcing. So that is one major problem. The second problem is for the people in the company who wants to even try, the current tools that are available are not really non-technical, professional friendly. So they have to deal with, oh, do I need to learn how to code? You have to use this, AWS archaic tools, that not archaic tools, but in the sense that it takes the learning curve is very long for them,
Mm.
so they cannot go into adopting AI. And also the last thing is the data. Um, you know, Preparing data for AI is very tasking in terms of
Mhm.
like time involved, and it's error prone. So if you don't do it properly, the quality of the model will also be bad. So
Right.
we are addressing these three major problems by building a platform that integrates all of them into a single interface. So from our platform, you can do data management, annotation for your AI model, and once you have that, you can basically um, fire up our AI agent for AI engineering that does that for you automatically, automate the process of AI model uh, development, and also you can do the deployment straight from the platform. So we're putting all of that into one place. And the value in that is that you can save a lot of time. You can reduce the cost up to 90%. You don't need to you don't need to do outsourcing to a big
Mm.
company anymore. And you don't need to hire a large team to work on your AI project. Your internal team can simply use this tool and achieve the same results as, outsourcing.
Wow. Sounds like a lot of time is going to be saved, a lot of money for sure for these companies. No, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that obviously in the medical industry, they do use technology, but it's mostly hardware, right? It's not usually a lot of, software. You're dealing with doctors, nurses, all these
Mm-hmm.
medical
Mm-hmm.
professionals who aren't
Mm-hmm.
technical, right? They,
Yeah.
like legacy systems that are in hospitals are not necessarily AI, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I really do see a need for this, especially if you can speed up their responses, right? Because a lot of delays happen in hospitals and it has consequences. People die, right?
Right, right, right,
Because
right.
of it. So that's like a residual effect of all these delays. Really
Yeah.
excited, man. So have you officially launched yet, or what's your current status at the moment?
So we already working with some design partners, such as like doing a POC project. So we were able to finish one POC last month, and now we're discussing a new one this month. We are in like early stage of discussing a full contract with some companies. So hopefully, if everything goes well, we should have our first main contract, main client, this month or next month. And of course, good thing that we were able to get the funding, so we don't really have to worry too much about generating revenue immediately. So we are focusing on building the first version of the product,
Mm.
which we are planning to release um, in next month. Actually, we have a working one right now, which we are releasing to our internal, like closed beta users between this week and next week. And so we hope that we can work with them to refine the product until we are able to release the first version in a few weeks time or months. Yeah.
So, man, I really love the fact that, this is moving so quickly for you, and obviously in startups, things can happen really fast or
Yeah.
not at all, right? Like we can.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
me, I feel like I've been a little bit stagnant here and there, but I'm so very happy that obviously your progress is going very quickly, right? So
Yes.
what are the next, I guess, biggest milestones for you this year, to where
Mm.
you're going to get to a point where you feel, okay, I'm really running a fully functioning company.
Yeah, so big milestones for us is we give ourselves some goals to acquire like 2 customers every month.
Okay.
Obviously, that's very I would say for a company that is starting, that is very strict, but I think we can achieve that. And maybe after we are able to release the product soon, then we can focus more on actually reaching out to clients and acquiring customers. So one major milestone for us is in March, where we're going to do a demo day
Oh, nice.
with Antler. So we're trying to get as much traction as we can have, working with POC clients before then, so that we can basically show. And of course, if we get a full customer, or if we're able to get some like MOUs before then, that would be great. So
Mhm.
we're really working towards getting our initial customers as soon as possible.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and after that, much later in the year, if we are able to reach that milestone of getting our initial customers, of course we can ride on that, and maybe a new funding round towards the end of the maybe middle of the year. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. So,
Yeah.
usually at demo day, all the other startups who got the investment from Antler, right?
Yeah.
They showcase their, products and services to other investors, like outside
Mm-hmm.
investors, and
Mm-hmm.
it's on a big stage and stuff. So, is there going to be a follow-up round around that time, or will it be later on in the year?
Yeah, so that would be a great time to start a new like a funding round.
Hmm.
So of course, the one thing we know is that the funding round can last many months. So it's
Right.
better to start early. Uh, I hear so many, advice that start 6 months before you think you need the money.
Yes.
So if we go by that, that advice, I would say April will be a good time for us to start, looking for next funding.
Mm,
Of course, what we have right now can last us maybe barely up until 1 year if we don't
mm,
make any revenue.
mhm.
But that means that much more earlier before then, we need to have some results, be able to show so that it's easier to raise funds,
Right.
and we were able to raise a seed round in maybe October
Right.
latest. Yeah.
Nice, man. Nice. So I want to chat to you about Antler a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously you came in as a technical founder, and then
Yeah.
your co-founder is also technical, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you being in the CEO role, what did you learn in Antler about business on the business side that has helped you groom you to where you're at right now?
Yeah. So obviously you were also in Antler, and it was more like an intense 10 week, or let's just say like intense 6 week first,
Yes.
where you had to, learn a lot about business, how to pitch. I would say one major advantage I got from Antler is the opportunity to present your idea to people, you
Hmm.
know, um, in a high pace environment. We had the chance to pitch at least 3 times a week.
Hmm.
Those were the official pitching, times that you had.
Hmm.
So when I went in, I made sure to at least, make use of all those opportunity, because every time you're telling people about your idea, you have the chance to, probably win people to your side, one, and also get a good feedback if an
Hmm.
idea is good or not. And three, you also get better
Hmm.
when you present. So that was one thing that I really learned, being comfortable with just like telling people about your idea,
Yeah.
multiple times over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was one thing. Yeah,
You refine your message each time that you do it, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. You keep refining it, you keep getting better, and it's kind of like the whole pitching thing that they do every week. It's like kind of like an iteration cycle. Each time your
Yeah, yeah,
pitch
yeah, it
gets better
was.
and better, right? So that
Yeah.
kind of translates to the other side of the business. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It really helped to have a better understanding by yourself and see what people are looking out for when you pitch.
Hmm.
When you tell them about your business, the numbers, the kind of questions that they will ask. the areas that you need to, hammer on most
Mm-hmm.
that would, carry across your message much better. So those
Right.
are the things that, yeah.
Now, can you talk about the advantage of Antler with regards to finding your co-founder?
Yeah.
How do they facilitate that?
Yeah. So when you talked about constraint the other time, I think Antler is that environment that puts you in that constraint of finding a
Mm-hmm.
co-founder. You
Mm-hmm.
know, truth is, before I joined Antler, I tried to start a company back in Nigeria for which I actually ran for almost 2 years.
Mm.
Um, I wasn't able to find a co-founder throughout the 2 years. And I've met a lot of people in Japan, sole founders in Japan who told me that the biggest problem that they have is finding a co-founder. M- Over 90%. I've never met someone who didn't say finding a co-founder was easy. It's always very difficult. So coming into Antler and being constrained within 6 weeks to find somebody that you'll be able to work with kind of accelerated the process. It's more like a catalyst, chemical reaction that would normally be slow, dull, but Antler kind of was that catalyst effect that allowed you to, sample a lot of people at the same time in the same place, and you also had a chance to meet them every day and
Mm-hmm.
talk to them but every day for at
Mm-hmm.
least six weeks,
Yeah.
and that really helped. I think it helped a lot. Of course, I still believe it's a miracle to find somebody that you
Yes.
will be able to work with for a long time, even in that short period. But that is one big advantage that Antler brings. And when people ask me, I say, if you're a solo founder, that this is one thing that you can really gain from Antler, being able to be in that environment where you can find a co-founder.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah,
recommended it to you when we met. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you would love it, Antler, because it's basically like 10 weeks of what we did in the hackathon. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm very happy that, you decided to do it because it was a struggle, right? You were thinking about potentially doing it or not because you were working at the time, right?
yeah.
So I guess, can you talk a little bit about what gave you that little push to want to to go off the deep end and get into entrepreneurship in the Antler program?
So um I would say time will still tell, but I felt like this was a really, really pivotal time. One in the industry, how things are changing, how people work, the future of work. Of course, it has been changing since COVID, but up until this moment, there's been new modalities of how people work. And with AI into the mix, things changed a lot. So I feel like this was a very, 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 very important time that if you had to make a very good, a very a decision such as this would be a great time to make that decision, because
Mhm.
I know that maybe next year, something else would happen, but at the time I could sense it that this was a very pivotal time. And for Japan, number two, was that 2024 was gearing up to be like that inflection point where many um investors were pouring into Japan. I
Mhm.
remember the textile started in Japan last year. There were some other like new incubators that came into Japan, and based on the research that I did, I realized that that year was something. So I feel like I couldn't wait to miss this
Yeah.
this opportunity. And for Antler, it was another pivotal moment for Antler because the previous two cohorts were all in Japanese, and this
Right.
one was the first one that they would do in English. So it's another pointer for me that okay, if you want to join Antler, this will be a very good time to join. And those were the things that just made me to. And I thought, can I really live with that, like without it for the next, I mean, if I didn't make this decision now, would I be happy with myself next 1 or 2 years? And the answer was no. So I just had to do
So happy you
it.
chose to do it, man. Because you're right. You hit the nail on the head when you said that last statement, man. We regret the things in life we don't do more than the things that we do, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
when we
right.
do something, we learn whether it was right for us or not. If we don't do it, then we'll never know, right?
Yeah,
So I'm glad you jumped off into the deep end with me, man.
yeah, yeah.
I actually did Antler. This last cohort was my third time, and I have not worked for a company since. right? I like entrepreneurship, it's just like it sucks you in, right? It's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
the freedom that you get from making your own like decisions and about your company and the direction of the company. Of course, I've failed a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. I wrote an
Mm-hmm.
article recently about all five of my startup ideas and how they failed miserably.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still learning, man, and that's what I love about entrepreneurship. It's just like learning constantly.
Sure.
What do you, I guess, get from it? What do you get from all this craziness, all this uncertainty?
So I think I'm still in search of my best self,
Mm,
if that's a way to put it. And every time I'm somewhere, I would ask myself, how could I be better? You
mm,
know, what is the next thing for me? And after working, that was what actually moved me out of Nigeria because I was in the job, I was new 1 year, and of course it was a kind of secure job, government, university. So, but I felt no, is what is my best self from here?
mm,
And that pushed me out of Japan. And when I was uh in Sendai, I wanted to move to Tokyo because I felt Tokyo was a place where a lot of things happen in Japan. And when I started working, I felt, okay, what is my best self here? How can I move to the next? And I felt like, okay, either I join a big company. This was a conversation I had with myself. Either I go join a big company like maybe Google or the rest, or any big company that would pay me more,
mm.
or I could start my own company
Mm.
and pay myself more. One
Yes.
way. The flip side is also true. It could fail, but the upside is much higher
Mm.
than the downside. So I felt, okay, this is a no-brainer for me. I have to move to this next thing.
Right. Good
Yeah,
man. Yeah, I'm glad that you took that leap, man.
yeah.
Seriously. Yeah, because a lot of people get comfortable consuming that paycheck, right? Being in that environment where it's safe, right? But the upside is it's capped. It's just like
Mm,
you can only get a 2% raise each time. Maybe you move to another company, you might get 10% or 20% raise, but that's it, right?
yeah,
Like you have the opportunity to potentially make way more than you could ever make, obviously working for a company. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the future of ModAstera. What do you see, or like, what is your goal? And I guess, where do you see the industry, the medical, like AI industry going in the next couple of years?
yeah. So AI is going to change everything. It's already changing everything.
Already has,
You
yes.
know,
Exactly.
um, yeah, the other time you were talking about like most of medical science is up until now is more in the hardware space and people are actually working. I also started to learn this since I started the company. There's a software as medical device. So a lot of there's a new wave and many areas in medical science or medical diagnosis are kind of adopting or welcoming the use of software as a
Mm,
medical device. And so I think that this is where we're going to. It might be slow in some places. And I understand the reason because you are dealing with people's lives, people's health. It totally affects people. It's not like Facebook where you just watch a video and go. So it's totally different. But I think it's going to change everything. And so we want to be the platform that powers, the medical AI of the future. And such that a world where ModAstera succeeds is a world where, all the companies are using our tool to accelerate their research and development for, medical AI
mm.
development. So this is the vision that we see going forward.
So who is your customer? Is it mostly like hospitals or is it research facilities, universities, those type things?
Okay, so our customers right now are simply put, medical device manufacturers.
Okay.
So it could be like a large medical device or small medical device. In fact, one of the contracts that we are, negotiating right now is with a company providing like a medical device in form of a portable device, Android smartphone, and they're
Okay.
using, they're collecting image using the smartphone, and they want to make some predictions from the images that is being collected.
Okay.
And that is a medical device company that is, in this area. So those are the companies that we're focusing on right now. We know that we can expand into more companies, categories in the future, such as insurance, patient care, direct patient care. But now we're focusing more on the medical device manufacturers, dealing with medical imaging
Hmm.
companies. So that's our like initial focus right now. And if we can really do this well, we can easily move into other modalities.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like the future is very bright for AI in in the medical space. It seems like a
Yeah.
no-brainer. Humans make errors, and malpractice is a thing, right?
Right.
AI doesn't make mistakes, or makes very few mistakes.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it does AI. The thing is, I think part of the problem is that people want to hold somebody responsible when AI
Mhm.
makes mistakes. Of course, we know that AI makes some mistakes, or mistakes depending on how it's trained. But if AI makes mistake, who is responsible? That is one big question that people ask,
Right.
and it's still in debate how to answer that question. And of course, you use an AI also, you want to be sure that 100% that is going to work. The problem with adopting AI is not about whether the AI works. It's about when the AI doesn't work.
Right.
So if you say your AI model is 99% accurate to predict cancer, let's just say, so
Mhm.
it means that 1% of the time it might be wrong. So
Right.
how do you deal with that?
Yep.
So it's a very, very difficult problem to solve, and nobody wants to take the responsibility of that 1%. So
Yeah.
we have to deal with it. We have to find ways to solve that, and that's why it's still kind of very slow right now, but it's gonna catch up in the future.
Good, man. I love the mission that you're on, trying to help people around the world, live healthier lives, right? And through
Yeah,
AI, which is
yeah,
incredible. Hopefully, you'll be very successful in the future and more people, have healthier lives. Exactly.
yeah. That's the kind of thing that we're thinking. Yeah,
That's impact, man. Impact.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what
That's
we need.
impact. Yeah,
More impactful entrepreneurs, not ones just trying to get rich really quickly. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Cool, man.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So we have a tradition on this podcast where the last guest leaves you a question and you go ahead and answer it, and then you'll ask one for the following guest. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay. So here is the question. If you could do anything and had no fear of failure, knowing you could not fail with
hmm
100% confidence, what would you do and why?
I will do what I'm doing right now. Building building the future of medical AI. This one thing I know that just imagine, there's so many people, so many diseases, so many unhealthy people because we have not come up with some kind of medical diagnosis to find, the cure or to find a cure for some diseases. Just imagine that you can do that at the speed of thought. Like, okay, you have this special disease that we just discovered. You can come up with a new treatment for this disease within weeks. How
Hmm.
much lives you would be able to impact and save from that, so that's the kind of thing that I'm really thinking about, just making medical AI or medical diagnosis much more easier to come up with and faster than ever before.
Well, Josh, it is clear that you have passion for this problem, and that's one of the keys of being a successful entrepreneur and, fulfilling your vision is having that
Yeah,
passion to want to
yeah.
solve the problem that you're in. So, I think you will be successful, man.
Thanks, man.
I
Thanks.
think
I,
you
I
will. I
think
saw
I
your
will be.
dedication and hard work during the Antler program. You were like the last person to leave some nights, right? Like that's what it is. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Cool,
thanks.
man. So, yes, now it's your turn. It's
Okay.
your turn to ask a question to the next guest.
Yeah, so my question would be if you met your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Hopefully my next guess is not 20 years
I guess you can halve the
adjusted, right?
number based on the
Yeah.
age of the person, I guess.
Okay, okay, cool. Yeah. So like basically like your younger self, like 10
Yeah,
years younger.
yeah,
Yeah, 10 year
yeah,
younger self, right?
yeah,
Like what advice would you give? Oh,
yeah.
that's
Well, what?
Yeah, I would give myself a lot of advice. Seriously, like, yeah,
Yeah.
very silly when I was 20 in my,
Uh,
but
yeah, I guess we can all look back at that time and I could have done things differently, you know.
exactly.
So I guess that's the thing. And
Absolutely.
it also seems that it's kind of a rite of passage to do some silly things when you are young. So I guess
Again,
there's no helping it. Like sugar night.
again, it's like the iteration process, man. You're supposed to learn in your 20s
Yeah,
and earn in your 30s, right? And then
yeah,
enjoy your wealth in your 40s, 50s, all that type of
I
stuff.
guess. Yeah, yeah,
Hopefully, if you do life
yeah,
right, that should end up like that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Well, cool, man. So, do you have any like events coming up that people could attend if they wanted to, or anything like that?
I guess it's kind of a closed event right now, the Antler Demo Day. I guess if you're really interested
Mm,
in seeing what Antler has, you can attend the demo day. But I'm sure it's going to be available online afterwards. But
okay.
I think there's going to be a long waiting list, so this will be a time to sign up for it.
I see.
Apart from that, we don't have anything for now. Yeah, that's the
Oh,
main
hackathons coming
that
up.
that's the main goal we have right now. We have to that we're working towards it. Yeah.
Just working towards making everyone better, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
bringing this medical AI ModAstera to the world. That's the key thing, right?
That's the thing. Yeah.
That's good, man. That's good. And how can people connect with you? What's the best way to connect with you?
I think I'm more active now on LinkedIn. So you
Okay.
can search for Joshua Owoyemi on LinkedIn. There are not many Joshua Owoyemi, so I think you'll find my name at the top,
That's right.
especially if you're in Japan. So yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I totally forgot to say Bawandi to you, man. You tell me
That's
some
good. Yeah,
love,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, good man. No, I'm really thankful to have you on today. It was a great
mm,
discussion. I really learned a lot about you I didn't know, and hopefully the listeners did as well. So thank you
yeah,
so
I
much,
really
Josh.
I
Yeah,
really enjoyed it talking to you. I always enjoy talking to you anyway, so this was another
one of
one
those
of our
opportunities.
discussions.
Yeah, my
So
man.
yeah.
All right, cool, man. I'm sure I'll see you as well later on
Yeah.
month. So thank you so much, and hope to see
All
you
right.
soon. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to share your PM stories, challenges, struggles, or insights with us on a future episode, please get in touch with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to have you on and keep this conversation going. Until next time, happy building, everyone.